Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be direct response to Lagacy69's video. For those who haven't seen either of the previous videos, basic story behind this is that not too long ago I made a video saying that in my opinion Quake is the best champion in the game, and I did my best to explain exactly why. And then I believe yesterday Lagacy69 dropped his video basically calling me out, saying that he does not agree with it. Went through my video, kind of rebattled some of the points as best he could, and made an argument that Ghost is better champion. So first of all, I have to say a huge thank you to Lagacy, because his channel is vastly bigger, and I'm definitely greatly appreciating the shout out and possibly kind of increased traffic for my channel, because my channel is only a few months old and it's definitely not nowhere near as big as yours. So thank you, mate. I definitely appreciate it, and I do find it fun actually to have an intellectual debate, so long as everybody involved kind of like keeps it above the belt, and especially I would ask that of any kind of supporters of either of the channels. There is no need to get rude or drastic over opinions on mobile video game. However, that being said, before I move on and say anything else, I just wanted to add that I do actually think that Lagacy is an extremely skilled player. I do generally believe that he is naturally a lot more skilled than I am at this game. He definitely has a great ability to play this game. However, unfortunately, ability to play this game does not always translate into ability to teach about it. Like, just because somebody has well coordinated feet and they can run fast and they're great at football does not make them great football coaches. There have to be a thought process behind it. Just because somebody is 7 feet tall, can dunk and is extremely accurate throw, does not mean they're going to be great basketball coaches. But that being said, let's move to actual breakdown and rebuttal of the videos, shall we? So my original video kind of made 3 points for Quake. Number 1 point was the fact that Quake is the best champion in game, in my opinion, because she completely bypasses all the game mechanics. So the rebuttal over there was made extremely kind of short and simple, and tried to squash out even just because of a statement that Ghost does it as well, just because Ghost can attack opponent without parrying. Well, in fact, unfortunately, parry isn't the only game mechanic, whilst Quake bypasses all of the game mechanics, and by all of them mean opponent's abilities, need to bait out special attacks, need to strike opponent, need to parry, need to interact or do anything with opponent at all whatsoever. Ghost can bypass parrying if opponent is aggressive enough and strikes at you, so that's also slightly conditional, and you can bypass evading special attacks, but you still do need to bait the special attacks, you still need to strike the opponent, you still need to deal with opponents and node abilities. Quake, however, does not. Therefore, just because somebody can throw a punch doesn't mean it is a good idea for them to get in the ring with Mike Tyson. In this case, Quake would be the Mike Tyson, because she does it all game mechanics. And where about Ghost, yes, she bypasses parry, but is it enough to make it even? No, not even close. And here's going to be the difference, that even though somebody can make an argument, you actually need to weigh out the weight of the argument and how important it is. And in this case, it's extremely important. It carries such a huge weight throughout what Quake can do. And yeah, also the second point on Ghost bypassing game mechanics and her ability to phase, don't forget that it is on timer and extremely reliant on how AI behaves, because quite often when you play Ghost, AI isn't gonna always dash back in at you, not gonna try to strike you, then your phase is gonna time out, you're gonna be left with that passive buff on you, and you're still gonna be forced either to parry or intercept. So there's another kind of a downside of Ghost, which, by the way, phasing, one of the best abilities in game, absolutely love it. Just like I love most about Ghost. However, phasing still on timer and is still dependent on how AI behaves. Quake does not care how AI behaves or what AI does or what AI you are facing. If you can evade attack, that's the end of the story. The fight is going to be over. You do not need to bait anything out, need an AI to be aggressive or passive or whatever. It's all the same for Quake. With Ghost, not so much. You do need AI to be aggressive and behave in a certain way, which not always will happen the way you want it to happen. So once again, a rebuttal over there. extremely weak. I still think the original point stands 1-0 for Quake. So then we're gonna move on, and my second point is just the sheer amount of nodes that Quake can do. And then again, it was quickly tried to wash it out, kind of saying it's even, because Ghost can do pretty much all the same stuff. However, is it really? Like, have you actually done a count? Have you went through like recent bosses, recent hard fights, recent event quests, variants, Act 6.1? No, but I don't believe you. How? Because if you did, you know that Quake still edges out Ghost in that aspect. Because in fact there are, well, first of all, there's entire variant 2. Okay, we can discount it's a bad day for Ghost. Tough start. But you still have variant 1, you still have Act 6.1, you still have all the recent uncollected event quests. And the one common and typical kind of like thing that connect them is that in the vast majority of the cases, Quake is the answer. While Ghost answers plenty, it's still not nearly as much. I would go as far as to say that Ghost can probably answer the second highest amount of problems in game. However, it still does not come close to the number that Quake answers. And even if we take away argument of quality or quantity, then you would notice that whenever there is an extremely problematic, tricky fight, Quake always steps in, because Quake is just so useful. And here is a problem which I found in Lagacy's video, which kind of made me upset slightly, and that was the reason why I decided to respond, just because Lagacy does not play Quake. I believe he has Quake, he hasn't ranked her up, you haven't practiced her, you haven't actually used her, right? I know you have Ghost, I know you have started using Ghost, and that's cool. The thing is, I have both of these champions for quite a while now. I use both of them consistently. I love both of them. And I do believe that in kind of this scenario, I would be slightly better suited to make a comparison in between the champions, because how can you possibly judge what this champion can do if you haven't actually used her or thought about it much before? Whereas in this aspect, I know firsthand exactly what Quake can do. So my suggestion over there to Lagacy would be, please do rank up your Quake, do give her a chance, do practice playing with her, and then you can make another video, compare them one against each other, and if you still like Ghost better, I will validate that opinion much more than I can possibly do right about now, just because I can't really believe majority of the things you are comparing them with, like in this node example, because it's simply not factually true, and you say it because you assume it's similar, which it isn't. Regardless, so Quake still takes a cake on that one, because there's still larger amount of nodes, and not even if it wouldn't be for a larger amount of nodes and opponents that Quake can do, there is still definite argument that Quake is going to step in much more frequently when it's going to come to the most frequent issue and problem fights, while Ghost is going to be more easy, chill, and fun to use getting to the boss fights and stuff like that. But when the tough is going to get going, you're going to want Quake. It's pretty much just like that. And the third point was that I believe Quake is the best champion in the game, basically because every single fight remains the same difficulty level. And unfortunately, this third point was completely misunderstood, and it went as far to say like Quake is boring to fight because every fight is the same. No, every fight is different. Every fight differs in AI behavior, how aggressively they are attacking you. However, the point there was that the difficulty level of fight remained the same, and which is by default higher than Ghost. It is harder to play Quake against casual opponents. Right, but here's going to be the comparison, right? So if we take your regular arena fight, no nodes, Ghost minces it through. Quake, you're going to have to play a bit harder, right? You're going to have to try harder. It's not going to be as easy for you to get the fight done. So what happens if that's not an arena fight, it's a simple quest fight and has some sort of basic node on? We can use a power gain node, let's say. And let's say power gain 100%. It's not unreasonable, it's still doable. But at that point, the fight level kind of equalizes because Ghost stayed at the same level, right? because nothing changed for Ghost. She doesn't have to hit the opponent, she doesn't have to interact with the opponent. It doesn't matter that there is that node or there isn't that node. For Ghost, the fight gets harder just because you're gonna have to bait out more special attacks, therefore it's not gonna be as easy, right? But what's gonna happen when you're gonna increase that power gain to 300%, whatever? Quake's fight stays still the same right here, it doesn't matter, it hasn't changed. Ghost's difficulty is gonna go up, right? And that's gonna be the same kind of like result when you take in aspect node combinations. You're gonna have 200% power gain, Bane, aggression, fury, this, that, and another, whatever. For Quake, it's always pretty much exactly the same fight. Nothing changes because she doesn't interact with your regular game mechanics. She doesn't care about opponents' abilities because all of them are nullified. For Ghost, you're still kind of forced under the same set of rules that any other champion is in this game, and you are gonna have a tougher time. And Quake is the only champion that can take power gain 1000 fight the same as she can take an unknown fight. Quake is still the only champion in the game that can take many difficult nodes mixed, mashed together, just like there would be no node at all whatsoever. And that is why Quake is the best answer for most of the cash grab fights. But anyway, so that's the 3 arguments where we're trying to rebuttal. I think all 3 of them stand. I think 2 of them were pretty much misinterpreted, and 1 of them was simply factually untrue from Lagacy's side. But and then there was an argument of immunities, right? However, throughout the entire video, he mentioned that you need hood synergy, you can tank special 3s, you have this utility, you have unblockable specials with the Wasp there, and so forth. So I don't think it would be unfair for Quake to call in some synergies, and if you're gonna call in some synergies, we're gonna take a look at, I don't know, skill class. Maybe there's such a new champion as Nick Fury with a fantastic set of synergies. Then look at that, is gonna let you purify, bleed, poison, or shock debuff, or even if need be, also incinerate debuffs. Look at that, all of a sudden Quake can do all of these paths you automatically said she couldn't do, right? And what you're saying it's not fair to use synergies? Well, Ghost typically uses 3 slots in team, 1 for Hood, 1 for Ghost, 1 for Wasp. Well, it's not a big deal if Quake does the same for a change. That also brings an argument that Quake does not need to awaken, Quake does not need synergies to do everything I mentioned in the video. Ghost, however, does. Ghost does benefit quite a bit from her awakened ability. Ghost doesn't need her synergies, and when it comes to stuff like Act 6, you need to be lucky enough to have all 3 of the champions required as a 5 or 6 stars, which many people do not. However, with Quake, just take in her, just pull her out of the crystal, rank her up, and you're good to go. And yeah, so there's an immunity argument, and there are 2 more points over there in the immunity argument. Even without Nick Fury synergies, in past I have often used Quake on bleed and poison nodes, let's say in war. You can take a lot of damage, but because of willpower you still survive and you still finish the job, you get the fight done, and you do it safely when there are tricky matchups like the Things or Korgs or whatever. So the point over there is that even though Quake doesn't have immunities, Quake by default is your answer, your tool for the hardest fights. She's never meant to be a champion you use for every single fight to get to the boss fight, because that would be impractical for reasons explained before. However, she is always going to be able to answer these things. So even if there is a bleed node in war, I still boost up, I still take my Quake in, and I still get it done. So it's not like she's unusable over there. And also, I just wanted to clarify one more thing, that Ghost is not immune to all of the debuffs. Ghost has an ability to convert these debuffs into a Fury, which is not exactly the same thing. Number 1 reason, because passive buffs are becoming more and more dominant in the game. Things like, I don't know, passive buffs. Let's think of passive damage, 3.3 Ultron. That was passive shock damage. Things like Corvus not taking damage from shock wasn't working there at all whatsoever. Neither would Ghost if she would be allowed in that fight. Things like Human Torch now, Nova Flame, those are passive incinerates, and there are going to be more and more things that Ghost can't transfer into the Furies, just because she isn't actually immune to those things. She has 0 immunities, just like Quake. She just has ability to convert those debuffs. However, it doesn't work against passive debuffs. It does not work while you're under ability reduction. Like, I don't know, it might fail on Domino, it might fail on Magneto, there might be new champions coming. That's another thing, so you might just fail to phase in the first place. Next is, even though it was kind of strongly mentioned, the Quake's weakness of willpower, there was nothing said about Ghost's weakness of armor break. Nodes like empathic lock, where you start the fight with armor break, heal block, and power lock debuff for X amount of seconds at the start of the fight, are becoming more and more common. They have been in both variants in Act 6, you can see them in Uncollected occasionally now. That also completely destroys Ghost, because you can't phase. Once Ghost can't phases, you don't crit, and you have no damage output. You can't convert these debuffs into anything, so Ghost still has to be careful. It's not like Ghost is fully immune. Not to mention there are plenty of champions that can inflict you with armor break debuff if you do make a mistake, and it's not out of the question that Kabam simply can pretty much directly nerf Ghost by adding a global node armor break. Or that might be one of our options in Alliance War, to add armor break to every node or something. So there is Ghost's big weakness of armor break, which is already getting exploited and could be getting exploited even more in future, which is definitely something that wasn't spoken about in Lagacy's video, and I think it's just kind of like misrepresentation of the champion if you do not mention that. Also, you can't phase if you already have a passive precision on you, and which is going to be the case fairly often, just because AI doesn't always behave the way you want it to behave. It's not always going to attack you while your phase is active. That's why that's the time you're going to be left with a passive precision buff on. That's the time you can't phase, that's the time you're still going to be taking the damage. So whilst I want to take absolutely nothing away from Ghost, it is absolutely amazing piece of utility. It is the main reason why I ranked up Ghost in the first place, even when I couldn't play her properly, just because I saw the potential of that utility. I absolutely loved it. I was feeling that I must have it, and it is great, but it is not a full immunity. It doesn't come without its downsides. And just as Quake doesn't have her immunities, and she can bypass it with like Nick Fury synergy and stuff like that, and she can make really great use of Heimdall synergies, Ghost also has to be slightly worried in several aspects when it comes to the immunities. So even though I would obviously put Ghost ahead of Quake when it comes to dealing with damage over time debuffs, I still do not think that just because of that magically Ghost can surpass Quake in overall usability and like worth as a champion. That being said, I do greatly appreciate the video Lagacy made. I do think it's a quite cool video, and just because I actually really like Lagacy, I'm gonna try my best to kind of explain the points I would have spoken about if I wanted to make a case in favor of Ghost. So first of all, he did mention damage, but he definitely did not put the emphasis of the huge amount of damage. Ghost has one of the best damage output potentials in the game, and the argument where I believe Lagacy should have went with, and where he should have completely changed the parameters of the whole debate, why is Quake or Ghost the best champion, it's not fight the utility battle, it's to press the battle that Ghost is actually, in fact, in his opinion, better champion, just because Ghost combines insane amount of damage with maybe slightly lower amount of utility, but still extremely great utility set, and she is possibly the best rounded champion in the game when it comes to huge damage output and actual usability in the quest in the games. And in his eyes, that could possibly be more important than the ability to cover the difficult content, and that would have been a really interesting debate that I would have enjoyed taking part in. This unfortunately current video did not kind of like make me doubt myself, and I think that is more or less kind of like your goal while you're having an educated debate, is kind of like dispute an argument so good that the person who made it initially could potentially kind of have a sliver of doubt in their mind. You're never going to change everybody's minds, obviously, but just making somebody doubt about it would have been amazing. Did that video, did I for a second think that because of that video that Ghost will overtake Quake as my top champion? No, it didn't create any doubt in me whatsoever, largely because, yeah, there was nothing said that changed my opinion. He doesn't play Quake at all. I honestly think when it comes to judging a character, you must have a first-hand experience, especially in a situation like this. Like, if I had Quake and I had never played Ghost, and we each made a video why each of the champions is better, I don't think I would ever have the audacity to call out the other party just because I don't have the first-hand experience. But fair enough, it happened, so we're dealing with it, and we're gonna kind of like try and move on. And quickly, kind of like to finish out the video, another kind of like small point of criticism for Legacy is that I think when speaking about these champions that both have absolute large fan bases, there are people who are Quake fans, there are people who are Ghost fans, and you need to be slightly a bit more careful. You need to build your case up on building both champions as extremely great champions, but prove a point why one of them slightly overbit edges the other one. When you try to destroy the versatility, the points of another champion that is as popular as Quake or Ghost, or when you just kind of try to demean or discount or ignore piece of weaknesses of your own kind of champion like Ghost, when you do not mention anything about armor break, when you do not mention anything, let's say, about Nick Fury synergy, and you purposely missing out information that might possibly not be in favor of the argument you're trying to make, unfortunately it does kind of make you seem a lot less credible and a lot less knowledgeable in the subject. Therefore, from the beginning of the video, I have always said I have both champions. I absolutely love both champions. I have played a lot with both champions. I can see definitely where one can edge out the other. But in my personal opinion, I do value the ability to deal with the majority of the hardest content in the game over the damage output. And that is why I edge Quake. Whilst Ghost is much more fun to play, easier to play, can definitely clear the quest faster, still has insane amount of utility, but I just think that extra amount of utility Quake provides is the reason why she's better. Anyways, I think that's going to be about me done rambling here. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe button. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people hitting that dislike button, but hey, you can't please everybody. So thank you very much, guys. If you're still watching, it has been a while, and I'm gonna see you guys next time. See ya.